60 Minutes Overtime.
This week on 60 Minutes, we sit down with Canada's best-known author, Margaret Atwood. Now 85, she has published 64 books and counting, including the best-selling The Handmaid's Tale.
Under his eye. Under his eye.
Published in 1985, The Handmaid's Tale depicts a near-future America overtaken by religious dictatorship, where a dwindling number of fertile women are forced to cloak themselves in red and bear children for the elite. The book would sell more than 10 million copies and spawn an Emmy-winning Hulu series.
These are rare books, so a lot of them.
At the Thomas Fisher Rare Book Library in Toronto, Atwood has archived stacks of her research. That is, the hundreds of news clippings that substantiate her plots.
Women forced to have babies.
Communists are making women have babies. Persistent non-pregnancy will be considered a crime against the state. I did get a tweet which the guy said, "How does Margaret Atwood make up this weird shit?" And I said, it's not me making up this weird shit, it's the human race.
What was your way into the story of The Handmaid's Tale?
So the immediately inciting event was in 1981, just after Reagan had been elected.
We are a nation under God, and I believe God intended for us to be free.
And this was the moment at which the religious right was getting organized as a political force. And this friend said to me, "Have you heard what they're saying?" And one of the visions was that women should be back in the home. So my question to myself was, now that they're all running around having credit cards and jobs, how are you going to get them back into the home? I'd always wanted to write science fiction because I had read 1984 as a very young teenager and been extremely impressed by it.
And what about those scarlet cloaks paired with a bonnet that have become a uniform of real-life protest and political resistance?
Oh, where did I get the outfits? Yes, well, if you have a cult and if you have a totalitarianism, you have to have outfits. The old Dutch cleanser box of the 1940s traumatized me as a child. So it shows a woman whose face is covered by this bonnet, holding a stick and chasing something. Pretty scary. What she was chasing was the dirt, but of course kids don't know that. What they see is somebody whose face you can't see with a stick. And the colors, for the wives, it would be blue, which was the Virgin Mary color. And for the handmaids, it would be red, which is the Mary Magdalene and scarlet letter color.
Atwood made Harvard University a central location for the dystopian society in The Handmaid's Tale. She knows Cambridge well. She was a grad student there in the 1960s. Why Harvard?
It was right in the heart of what people believed America to be. And what they believed it to be was the antithesis of the USSR. So we're in the Cold War here. I was very interested in totalitarianisms, and I was very interested in how they get that way. But Harvard, I didn't like hearing people say it can't happen here, because anything can happen anywhere given the circumstances. So I took all of the details from The Handmaid's Tale from other countries, other times, but they're all real. And I put them right in the heart of liberal America.
This totalitarian, authoritarian theocracy that you saw in the United States in the near future, that was rooted, you're saying, in history.
Absolutely. The Puritans of New England were not Democrats, and the people who had the power were the higher-ups in church governance.
Atwood writes one of the dedications in The Handmaid's Tale to a 17th century New England woman named Mary Webster. Like other women of her time, Webster was accused of witchcraft and sentenced to death by hanging. You dedicate The Handmaid's Tale to Mary Webster, half-hanged Mary. Who was she?
Well, she's a relative of ours who was in Massachusetts in the 17th century. She lived in a town called Hadley. She got accused of witchcraft and got taken to Boston, was put on trial, got exonerated. She got off on the charge, but the townspeople didn't like the verdict and strung her up anyway. and came in the morning to cut down the body, and she was still alive. So I expect if they thought that she was a witch before this event, they really thought so afterwards. But they didn't hang her again, and she lived another 14 years.
You trace this. This was a relative.
Okay, so on Mondays, my grandmother said it was, and on Wednesdays, when she was feeling more respectable, she would say she wasn't so sure.